Ukraine is due for unconditional surrender shortly. All these maneuverings of summits and peace conferences are pure rubbish. Russia has ramped up its operations on the Kyiv regime, but should Russia just be happy at the unconditional surrender of Ukraine and ignore the bigger goal it must have for Russia and its citizens for the future? Welcome to yet another edition of Wise Heads. I am your host, Ashish Shukla. Even if you don't read it, I guess you know already that Ukraine has lost this war practically against Russia. But as Russia's President Vladimir Putin is never tired of saying, it won't stop till Ukraine is denazified. What is this denazification which Putin is putting even above Ukraine's defeat? This begs a little insight on Ukraine's past. Before the First World War, Ukraine was just one flat land. Historically, Germany and Russia jostled for control of this land. A lot of nationalities lived on this land, including Khazar Jews. At the turn of the 20th century, a radical named Dmitry Donstov became very popular. He sided with Germany in order to throw out the Russians from the flat land. At that time, as you know, it was Tsarist Russia. The German Secret Service too promoted Donstov, but then Tsarist Russia fell to the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917. Germany perceived both Bolsheviks and Jews as its enemies. After Germany's defeat in First World War, this flat land we know as Ukraine fell under three centers of influence. One was held by Simon Petliura, the other by anarchists in Russia, and the third portion, which is today's Donbass, by the very Bolsheviks. Donstov became Petliura's protege and, helped by Germans, gave a call for extermination of Jews and Bolsheviks. Tens and thousands of Jews and Bolsheviks were murdered. They also sought the help of Polish army to push out Bolsheviks. Poland too was eyeing this land which was in front of them, but this alliance badly lost to Bolsheviks in the war. After the First World War and Germany's defeat, the area fell under the influence of the Bolsheviks or the Soviets. Meanwhile, Adolf Hitler was rising in Germany. Donstov now hooked his wagon with the Nazis. Again, the mission was to get rid of Jews and Soviets. Again, hundreds of thousands were murdered, were butchered. Nazi Germany in 1941 declared Ukraine to be an independent state. Donstov, meanwhile, had helped create the Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists, or OUN as it later was called. OUN was split into two groups in due course. The moderate group was OUNM, while OUNB was headed by Stephen Bandera, who was extremist to the core. Bandera, in fact, was a disciple of Donstov, who thus could keep doing his murderous pogroms. OUNB was a Nazi to the very core. They hated both Jews and Soviets. But after Soviet Union secured a win over Germany in the Second World War, Donstov and Bandera fled from the land. Ukraine came under the control of the Soviet Union. Yet that murderous ideology has never left Ukraine's extremists. Bandera is treated as a national hero in Ukraine. Donstov has an institute named after him in Kyiv. The radical militias still are asked to read Donstov's influential book, Nationalism. Ukraine's constitution still states that the racial purity of Ukrainians must be maintained at all cost. There is still a law where human rights appeal is available to Ukrainians but not to the others, say the people of Russian origin in Donbass. In 2011, there was a law mooted to stop celebrating the end of World War, for it ended in victory of the Soviets and defeat of the Nazi Banderists. Ukraine's integral nationalists, Nazi extremists, in other words, still control the levers of power, though in terms of number, they are still in minority. With such a sordid background, it's apparent why Vladimir Putin is insisting on the denazification of Ukraine. And that goal Russia must keep in front of its eyes, even if it secures an imminent victory over Ukraine. Victory on ground is only half the objectives which would be met. The total victory is when Ukraine is completely denazified. That's all in today's edition of Wise Heads. This is your host Ashish Shukla, who now takes your leave. Till we meet again, it's goodbye and good luck.